Listener discretion advised. The content may offend. Listener discretion advised. The content may offend. My grandfather worked at a library, and that meant that I had access to books, many books, and I was always reading, which meant that I had to be alone to enjoy these books, because you can't read with people around. It's something you do that you become self-absorbed, you become absorbed in the contents of the book. And so since I was a child, I have become very comfortable with myself, very comfortable in my presence, very comfortable in my own company, and I feel best when I'm alone, usually if I'm alone, first thing I want to do is read or write. Then I want to maybe do music or gardening or cooking, work out, go for a walk, a hike. Oh, even better, I like to create things, make things. I'm always mixing things, my little science projects in the kitchen. Even a simple thing as saving my peel from my produce, my food, my fruit and vegetable peels, and how I utilize them, whether I eat the mango and I cut it deep enough that there is some meat, some mango flesh on the skin, and I freeze that. Of course, you wash the mango and you freeze the peel. You keep it in the freezer until you're ready to make. I don't do smoothies as much as I used to in the past. I now do mostly vegetables with perhaps an apple or pear. I'm not really that keen on juicing my fruits anymore. I prefer to eat fruit. But when the fruit is there for too long and it's soft and getting a little, they call in Dominica fenny, it means it's getting wrinkled and it's what you'd call old. I don't like it. The sugar is usually more pronounced, and so I will process that, meaning I wash and cut and freeze, and that will go into the next time I'm making a green drink to which I add fruit. And some other things I add, like a little bit of olive oil, some cayenne pepper. I like to add some cinnamon, and I have some products we sell that have supplements, vitamins, and things that help keep me alive and strong and healthy. I used to ask my mom when I would read. I would ask my mother what this word meant and what that word meant. My mother never once told me the meaning of any word that I asked her, and instead she would always say to me, go and check the dictionary, go and look in the dictionary. So the dictionary actually became my favorite book. Encyclopedias, I would read encyclopedia like it's a novel. And I love reading textbooks. I like reading books on anthropology and botany, biology. I just really love to read. And I love the library. I came from the Caribbean, from Dominica to Toronto, Canada, and I found the library again, and I was enjoying the library as I always have done. Over the years, I stopped going, but less and less frequent for my visits to the library, because I started to discover things like there are people who spend like the whole day in the library. Perhaps they're homeless or they're not living in a nice place, and so the library can be peaceful. You can put your head down and take a nap, fall asleep and rest, and it's usually generally safe to do so, I guess. If you're a man, like, I wouldn't fall asleep in a library. I don't feel safe that I could let myself go like this. You know, it's a man's world, right? I'm not a man. But so I would go to the library and find what I was looking for and sign it out, take it home, and then I would get into the books. At some point, I just stopped going to the library because there were weirdos, you know, man touching himself, and I just started to feel not so safe, even if I was by then older. And I discovered they do nasty things, you know, nose picking, ass picking, toe picking. You know, they treat places like libraries, public places. Some people are uncouth. You know, it reminded me of when I was at the strip club. I was hanging out at what we call the downstairs bar, where people could come, including the dancers. Everybody could get their drinks at a discount price, priced lower than upstairs bar. So we would hang out there because the kitchen is downstairs. There was a Filipino man would come regularly. Everybody knew him because he would get his paycheck from working a very hard job, it seemed. And he would get his paycheck and come to the strip club and buy for everybody. He was buying meals for the dancers and drinks and shots and bottles of beer for friends. And he was just spending, and he was blowing a lot of money. And I knew he was also sending money home to the Philippines. It was kind of disturbing to see him. But, you know, he was enjoying himself. But he would get very drunk. That was the problem with the drinks being so cheap in the basement, was that the levels of intoxication. I saw him on more than one occasion. He would just take his shoes or slippers. Sometimes he'd wear those beach flip-flop type things. And he would, sitting at the bar, on the bar stool, he would put his leg up, his foot up on this bar stool. And then I start to hear, because I'm not paying attention. I'm talking to people, sipping on my drink, you know, and just listening to the nonsense at the bar. And then I hear, click, click. What the hell's that? Click. And I look over, and there he is, clipping his toenails at the bar. And his foot is up. So I'm just horrified, because I think he clicks and he clips and he clicks. And that can go flying in your cocktail. You can go flying in your glass if you're eating something, because I would serve the girls and the customers at the bar. There would be plates of food there. So, you know, that's kind of gross. But, you know, guys, it's a man's world, right? It was at the bar, the downstairs bar, that often the men would flex. You know, guys who couldn't get attention from women otherwise would get it at the downstairs bar, because they were spending money and buying people drinks, even if the drinks were like $3.50. What is it? $3.50 a beer or something like that. $4. It was cheap, much cheaper than upstairs. So, you know, I think these guys felt like somebody, because they would come in when they had all their money. They got a check. They come in, and they're like big spenders at the strip club. And, you know, sometimes the girls, depending on, you know, this strip club sucked ass. And so towards the end, when I was there, they weren't doing very well, and nobody was making money except the club, because they always have their liquor sales, and you know, the girls are there, and they get money from the girls as well. Some of the girls, well, they were doing prostitution, so they made their money, but the girls who didn't, well, they didn't make the money. You had to suck a dick or take a dick in some way, but you're supposed to be a stripper. And they don't like to be called strippers, even if it's a strip club, because they don't really strip anymore. Huh? They wear these outfits. They have, it's, you know, seriously, it's become, everything is so kind of like controlled. We are now under control at a time when we ought to be free. I didn't want to get a cell phone. I never wanted a mobile phone. I hated the laptop. Eventually I got on the Mac computer, and I decided that of all the things, I didn't like the IBM platform. I didn't like those computers. But I actually liked the Mac computer so much that, well, I was going to buy one. But fortunately for me, I had a close friend I lived with, and she's transgender. She bought me my Mac. I believe she bought me my Mac. I think she did. Did I buy my Mac? No, I think she bought my Mac, she bought a lot of things for me. Very, very sweet. Cancer. Cancer is a sign I am compatible with, but they have some funny ways about them that cause me to boss them around, dominate them. And I don't know, I don't like dominating people who are not paying for the service. I like to live with this transgender. She was born a he in Canada, and to a mother, an American mother and a Canadian father, and told me stories. The stories I was told caused me to feel empathy. This is who I am. I care about people, but I believe that there are people who tell you stories to make you feel sorry for them. And yes, because in this case, I was told so many stories. I felt bad for this person, only to have that person years later, when I reminded them of things they'd said to me that I know were clearly said to me, and I had good recall, for the person to deny ever having said those things, as though like, you mean I made that up? I fabricated a story about your life when I knew nothing about you before meeting you? Why would I do that? Makes absolutely no sense. You told me these stories about your life in Buffalo and your life moving across the border, going to Hamilton, Stony Creek, which is where you were born and where your father's family came from there. But your mother didn't stick with your father because he had been a petty thief, and she didn't want the boy to be influenced by character of father, and so she cut ties, and he grew up not knowing his father, and he grew up with the mother, the grandmother, and his sister. And he said that because I asked him why did he want to, because when I met him, he was a cross-dresser, and he came to see me. I was doing my domination. He came as a client, cross-dressing, and wanted me to rape him. I turned him into a she first, feminized her. I saw a different person entirely, very different, and she's a very sweet person. It's easy for me to feel empathy. She's never been an asshole, but as a man, he can be an asshole. He can be a jerk. He can be an idiot. I'm sure she has her moments. She's not perfect, but it's a more pleasant experience to deal with her in every way than dealing with him. He's not really a bad guy, but he has some, he can be moody, very moody, and when he starts to talk, he has not yet learned when to stop talking, because it can become tiresome, like he's draining as a vampire, energy vampire. So he is illiterate, which is remarkable considering he was born in Canada, raised in the US, had dual citizenship, and it was to the point where I was telling a story of his illiteracy, and white Americans got very angry, and they didn't want to accept this fact. They didn't want to believe that there is a white man who grew up in Canada and America who couldn't read or write. They didn't want to accept it. If he had been black, yeah, sure. And they said as much. There's no way there's a white person. And there are so many white people who cannot read, cannot write. But white people don't want to accept that. And so somebody like him, they're not accepted, which is how he came to be my roommate, because I accepted him. I needed a roommate at the time because I just got rid of one who was too nasty, filthy, disgusting. Leo, obese, bald-headed, white female, who became just obsessed with black sex. Well, she had always been obsessed with black sex. She tried to have sex with me. I didn't want her. I didn't want her because she was gross. She was disgusting. She was filthy, very, very dirty. And the way she ate, it was a turnoff. She'd eat a whole chicken all by herself. Like, ew, 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 ew. So it was gross. She was gross. Not cleaning her litter box. The place was I've never seen a house such a mess. She just wouldn't clean. And so this type of person is the type of person that goes crazy for a black person. Why is that? Because white people would not put up with that. But the black guys do. All they care about is the pussy so much that they fail to acknowledge the mess all around the pussy. Because all they care about, all they can see is the pussy. But she was filthy, dirty, disgusting, and ended up having at least one child. I don't know if there were more after. But with a black guy who she met at a club. And I was there when she met him. She was riding him on a couch in the club as people were dancing all around. And that's what I realized. You know, Leo is into that kind of exhibitionist activities. Like, I had a Leo, she was now a trans. She was my girlfriend at the time. She's now a he. But people have told me of how they saw us. They would see her fucking me on the dance floor, which she often did. It's like she couldn't just dance with me. We always had some great DJs, great music, you know, great dance, lazy dance, dyke dance, whatever, even gay, all kinds of gay and straight and fags and dykes, gay men and women. It's fun, right? But she always had to raise it to the next level where she's fingering me on the dance floor. Oh, I'm intoxicated, you know, at first it was off-putting, but I just fell into it because I was so into her. You know what I noticed? Those that I loved the most seemed to have hated me the most. Like, the more I loved them, the more they hated me. It's like people who didn't like me got close to me. They couldn't stay away from me. It's like they wanted to hurt me. And that's what they did. I was so naive, I didn't know any better. So I accepted people into my life, into my sphere, who I clearly should never have ever even given the time of day. It was important that I used to write so much. I was writing. I never cared about getting published. People always ask me, were you published? I was published once in an anthology with a group of other writers. Actually, no, it was 2 different books. But they weren't my books. People ask me to contribute. And I'm so afraid of my work getting stolen that I deliberately miswrote a line in a poem just so it would be messed up. So that when I needed to do it, because to me, it was my performance was vocal, and so spoken word on a microphone, on stage, or on the radio. That's how I saw myself. I didn't see myself authoring books.